Regional Elite Motorsports. I'm your host, Isaiah. And today we're going to be disassembling and taking down the transmission. So let's dive in. All right, now we're gonna start preparing to take out the transmission. But in order to do so, we will need to drain the fluid. So let's get to that. Okay, so we're using a 1516 socket for this here. All right, so we're gonna crack that loose, get it drained out. And then next, we're going to take out the drive shaft, which are the 4 bolts right there. And then this part just slides out. And normally you would have to detach the shifter equipment up here, but I actually don't have to do that because it's not connected to the inside of the car except the actual boot. So that's good. That's one less thing that has to be done. So for those of you who have a stock transmission, you definitely have to go up top and take the shifter out pretty much. So if you recap from the last video with the black Conquest, you could see how that one came out and goes in, and take it from there. But we're gonna skip that part and we're gonna drain this and continue on to the next step. Okay, so with that drain plug out, of course this is a magnetic plug, so you can take a look at the shavings on this that need to be cleaned off and the condition of your fluid, which this one is actually not that bad. Alrighty, so let me clean this up and we'll move on to the next thing. Okay, and something else I wanted to point out, and probably the reason why this transmission would not let me shift at higher RPM ranges, is most likely because there is only 1 quart of oil in that transmission, and it's supposed to be 2.5. And on this side is a 12 millimeter, and on the back side is a 14 millimeter. So you just loosen 2, make sure the transmission is in neutral, and it will help if you have both tires in the air, because this is a factory limited slip differential. To spin the drive shaft, all right, and get the other 2. And that is it, at least for the drive shaft. So I'm gonna get that done and take it from there. Okay. And mine was a little stiff on this side, so I had to use a chisel, and it has a groove here for you to put a little bit of, let me just lay it down, put a little bit of pulling power on it. That's what this side and the opposite side is for. So you do that there, pops loose, then you pull this out of the back half of the transmission, and that is done. Next, I'm kind of doing this in a backwards order, but there's a reason for it. So what I'm gonna start doing is I'm gonna take the 4 bolts from this side, which is 1 at the bottom, 2 for the starter, and 1 all the way up top right there, right? And then there is, I believe, 2 on this side, And we're gonna take all of those screws out. So let's do that, and then I'm gonna show you the next step after that. All right. All right, so all of the bolts to the transmission is out. 2 on the passenger side, 4 on the driver's side. And the reason we took out the transmission bolts first off of the bell housing is because transmission is not going to move with the transmission mount still connected. So when we bring down the transmission mount, we will be ready to bring down the whole transmission. But before we do that, this speedometer cable here, which should be fine, we're not going to go too far with the transmission, so that doesn't even need to be disconnected. But for the shifter, we're going to disconnect it from the top from the boot, which is only 2 screws, very simple. And then we're gonna get working on this transmission mount. Okay, so I am going to have to loosen these 2 bolts here. And you, if you have your original shifter, you're gonna have to take out the shifter completely. Reason being is because the original shifter has, I believe, 2 items that are hard mounted to the shifter, and mine doesn't have any of it, so that keeps it pretty simple. So I'm gonna crack loose those 2 bolts, take off the upper part of the shifter, and I'll be good from there. Okay, now, since the shifter's out, this is a 12 millimeter, and it's 2 on each side, and it has these tabs that make sure the bolt doesn't spin. So you're gonna want to pop loose all of these tabs for every single bolt, just like that. And once you get ready to bring down the transmission, that's when you want to make sure you have your transmission jack, a jack, or anything you're going to use to bring down a transmission slowly. And I'm going to be using a jack, so that should make it pretty simple. And then we will take it from there. So you just loosen these up, and then your jack will catch the transmission once it falls, and then slowly bring it down. So let me get these bolts out and get that part done, and I'll be back. All right. So the transmission is down. We got the speedometer cable, reverse light, things of that nature, that's here and still plugged in. And let's see what we have for the clutch and flywheel assembly. So we have a factory pressure plate, and inside is 6 pugs with springs, which actually worked out pretty good. I had that clutch in here for 5 or 6 years, and it just now started to quit, so that's actually pretty decent. Also, we're gonna be taking this apart, of course, but you should always get your flywheel resurfaced, so there's no chattering. You got a smooth surface to have a full contact patch with the clutch disc and everything. But because I'm going to be pulling the motor and transmission out of this again later, I'm not going to resurface the clutch. I just want to keep this running until the race motor is ready, and we will take it from there. But until then, we're gonna swap out this clutch. I'm gonna bring down the flywheel and replace that rear main seal also. So let's start tearing into this clutch assembly. Okay, and this is the damaged piece here. Now, this is in very poor condition, a lot of damage. So this is trash. And if you look here, there's a couple different grooves. There's a raise in the center and a drop in these two areas, and there's a lip here. So this clutch has definitely been through a lot of abuse. And now we gotta check the flywheel. Okay. So, let's see. Alrighty. Oh, yeah. Probably not going to be able to use this flywheel. It definitely has to get machined. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to take down this flywheel. Yep, I see a lot of heat cracks. Oh, yeah. So I pretty much trashed this flywheel and everything. And also let's check inside. Oh my. Oh. Yeah. That's, oh. So there's a lot of reason to believe that the rear main seal is garbage, and this is exactly why we want to replace the rear main seal. So yeah, we're gonna do that. The throwout bearing never ever made noise, but we are still going to replace that one. So let me take this out, and it has a little clip, top and bottom. So you just pull this out. Let me see if I can get this clip out. And also, drop a comment down below if you have a part number for this clip. It's good to keep a good stock of those. I know this one's original. So yeah, so this clip goes onto the top of the fork, and either one is wanting to budge for me, but it's okay. So I'm gonna take this off and take the flywheel off. To take the pressure plate off, it's 6 12mm bolts, which are those bad boys there. So yep, so you take that stuff apart and you pretty much get to this point. And that slides pretty good. All right, so I'll be back. Okay, so these are the clips for the throwout bearing. The hook goes into the throwout bearing. The straight part goes into the arm. So you gotta kind of put a finger in there and twist it to open the hook to get it out. A little weird, but that's the way she goes. I'm gonna clean this up and put it aside. all of the oil that splashed in there actually kept this thing alive, because like I said, it's never made any noise or anything. So it's actually been running pretty smooth, still glides. So I'm just gonna put that aside, even though I have a brand new one. So let's clean this up and we'll put it aside. So anyway, next we're gonna yank down the flywheel. So we look at there, we got 6 bolts and that flywheel should be out of there. So let's get to that and we should be good to go. All right, so as you can see, I got a pry bar holding the flywheel and a breaker bar to crack loose the bolts. So this should come off fairly quick. So, I mean, you could definitely use a pry bar yourself, depending on how far you have the car jacked up, but this seemed to work extremely well. So, we're gonna take this sucker loose, and I have another 8889 flywheel that I'm going to put on. And this engine is not balanced, so the swapping of the flywheel is not gonna change anything, so should be good to go. And yeah, this flywheel is definitely savable. That's after I get this sent to the machine shop to get resurfaced, and after that it should be good to go. Also, once I take this down, we're going to start taking apart the rear main seal. So yeah, we're gonna get it all done. All right, so this is the flywheel, all 36 pounds of it. And here in the center, we have a pilot bushing. We're gonna take this out, but on the other flywheel, because we're not using this one. So we'll just move this aside. Okay, be careful, smash them fingers. Okay, so we're gonna move this one aside and let me grab the other one. Okay, now if we look here, all right, there we go. This one's cracked. This is what came out of the car, and it's cracked so much that you can actually feel it with your nail. So you hear it catching? And it has a lip here. Actually, 2 lips. There's one here and one there. So this one is really rough, to say the least. And then this one here is like brand new. There's no, it's so smooth, like there's nothing there. So this is going to be the one we're going to use. Both of these are from, well, this one's a 88, this one's a 89. They're both the same size, which is 240 millimeter. 87 and down is 225 millimeter, so it's a smaller clutch and a different bolt pattern for the housing. So you always want to keep that in mind. But yep, so we're gonna slap this one in, and we're gonna take a socket to the back side of here and pop this bearing out, because we have a brand new one that's gonna go in. All right, so yeah, I'll see you in a second. All right, so we took the old one out, and we have the new one right here. As you see, it goes on the alignment tool. But what we're gonna have to do to install it is we're gonna have to find a socket that is the exact same size as the outer groove, because this black part is actually plastic. So you don't want to hammer on that and have that fall out on a transmission and such. So we're gonna slide this new bearing in and have this set and ready to go. Okay, and the perfect socket is a 15/16. Fits the bill perfectly. So we'll give this a couple taps and we'll take it from there. And a couple light taps and she is all the way in. Nice and smooth. You do not want to get a light hammer. A nice heavy hammer works pretty good. But if you do, just increase the tapping ratio and you should be good to go. All right, so next we're going to pull that rear main seal and pop a fresh new one in there, because when I put this rear main seal in, it was actually used from God knows where. So we're gonna put a nice fresh new one in there and take it from there. Okay, so if you're taking a look at the rear main seal, we have 5 10mm bolts all the way around to the other side. We have 2 on the bottom, and you'll be able to tell the difference because the rear main seal bolts are long, the 2 on the bottom are short. So once you remove those, you take a little flathead and you jimmy the rear main seal out, and once it's out, we are going to redo the rear main seal. And as you can see, it is leaking here on the bottom. See if we can zoom in. Yep, that's a lot of leaking. So we're going to fix that with a brand new rear main seal, and it should be right as rain. All right, so let's get to it. I'll be back. Main seal has been removed with the help of a flathead. Also, because the oil pan gasket is a part of the rear main seal, you might want to get a razor blade and follow the top all the way across to the opposite side and not rip the gasket like I did, because then you would have to do the oil pan gasket. So we are going to take all of the gasket material off both sides. We're going to take this ring out. There we go, just like that. Okay. And then we're gonna take this rear main seal out. It's not hard, it's not petrified. It just was leaking. So it was probably out around or something like that. No telling, but we're gonna replace it. So to get this rear main seal out, you flip it to this side. You take your flathead and you go all the way around and push all the way around, and it will come right out. Now, after that's done, I'll be able to clean it up and get the new rear main seal in, put the back plate on. All right, awesome. I hope you guys found that informative. We are going to be installing everything on the next episode. So stay tuned, we're gonna knock it out.